I think I'm live. I hope I'm live. I don't really know. I assume I'm live. It says I'm live, so I'm gonna go with it. Hello and welcome. This is weird. Let's be honest. This is kind of weird. And I don't, this is more weirder than I thought it would be, because it's not the first time I've done live streams, but this is definitely the first time I've done a live stream in like this capacity entirely by myself as well. And I don't have anyone else to talk to, but I can see your all's chat like going over here, and I've hidden most of my video so I don't have to see the lag. So to answer the question about the weather, actually it snowed last night here in Nevada. So we have about 4 inches of snow, which is about 10 centimeters, I think, if like doing really bad math. And as you all know, Nevada's not one to know about counting. So yeah, we actually got a decent amount of snow last night, and we woke up this morning, and Subi loves snow. And so my husband and I got up this morning at like 6 a.m. and we went downstairs together with the dogs, and we went and let them outside. And then we opened the door for them to like go out into the snow all at once. And then they've already worn themselves out for the day because they played in snow for a good like 30 minutes. And Subi's little like legs were just like going, and her little teeth were going, and she's just like, bah! Anyways, but the sun's out now because it's still a desert. It's still Nevada, and all the snow is starting to melt. So we probably won't have any after probably a couple more hours, unless like more snow comes in over the mountains. So that's the weather. It's very festive today, so I'm very excited. And I'm so glad you guys are here. I didn't know if people would even show up. It's been such a crazy week that I wasn't sure if anyone would actually be here. It'd be like me just talking to myself. Like, hello darkness, my old friend. But anyways, I am really excited to hang out with you all today and watching the chat go by. I asked my Patreon, I asked my patrons there to give me some questions to answer. And so I figured what I would do for this live cast is I would answer these questions. And I think probably a lot of them are questions that you all have as well, if you're not on a part of my Patreon. And then like in the downtime, like once we kind of get through these questions, I thought that I could take some questions from you guys as well. But obviously, like, I have some babies out. So, you know, like, they're just here chilling. And then I have some other babies over here as well. And I even have some babies, like, behind the door over there because I've been really busy, like, photographing and stuff. I will say the video that was supposed to go up this week that I just did not have the spoons to do is for the purple 1860s gown that you see back here. So we can talk about her a little bit, but her video is going to come out next Sunday, so we don't have to worry about this. And this one's actually my newest acquisition here, and she is a really precious 1870s, maybe like early 1880s. Like the more I look at her like ensemble, she's adorable and super homemade, and I love her so much. So how does that sound for everyone? Good? The babies, yay! Excellent. And yeah, hey everyone from like all over the world, like welcome to Nevada. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and get into it, and let's have a good time, right? Right? Cool. Sounds good. Awesome. So my first one is from Luidmila. Oh, I'm so sorry if I just butchered your name. She asks about... She bought some Roxanne needles. So she watched my hand sewing video. She bought some Roxanne needles. Good quality needles change your life, as you know. And she was asking about like the eyes and what kind of thread to use. And so this one's just kind of a technical one. I love using heavier weight sewing thread for most of my sewing, especially if I'm doing any sort of seam work, because when you look at original garments, you see very thick thread, especially when hand sewing was the predominant way to manufacture clothing. Once sewing machines kind of come into play, the thread gets thinner and it looks more like what we're used to today. But when you're looking at like 18th century, early 19th century sewing, when you're talking about seams or arm's eyes, it's usually a really thick, nice heavyweight twist. And so that's what you all see me sew with a lot, because usually when you're watching me sew, I'm sewing seams or I'm sewing on a slightly heavier fabric. But I do also use a lighter weight silk thread. And where'd I go? Have I disappeared on you guys? What happened? Okay, you guys can hear me, but you can't see me. Hold on. Yeah, those are my old friends, right? Let me see. Hello, this is tech support. Have you tried turning it on and off again? I don't know what happened, guys. Andrew, the answer is no. It's cut out, so I don't know if it's my camera or what. No. I've been sitting here, guys, for like 30 minutes, and it's been fine. Oh my gosh, Mercury's out of retrograde. This isn't supposed to happen. I can see your all's messages just fine. It's something with my video, and I'm not 100% sure what it is, and I'm scared that I'm going to lose the entire connection. I'm going to mute myself real fast, guys, okay? Okay, can you guys hear me now? Okay. All right, so that was fun. So I was like being super fancy, and I had like my little Sony set up, my little camera, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be like a super clear visuals, and it's gonna be a great picture, right? And it's gonna be awesome. And then I did that. So now we're just on my webcam for my Apple. So Thread. Yeah, Thread's great. It's like, okay, here we go. At least this shouldn't cut out. Sorry, guys. Let's see here. Let me make sure that I am still using my microphone correctly. Yes. Okay, good. So the thread that I like to use for thinner stuff is the Kinkame 50 weight, but you guys usually see me sew with 30 weight. So like 30 weight does require a slightly heavier thread. That's just kind of par for the course, slightly bigger needle eye, and that's just kind of par for the course. So it's just a game of learning what needles to use with what thread and when and in what situations and things like that. So that's that question. And now my whole like flows off. So now we're just going to sit here and be like, all right then, good time. Good time. Kelly Burke asks if I have any big goals or projects that I'm working on right now or anything that I have found particularly inspiring lately. Yes, I am, and I have, and I do, and I can't fully go into the details yet, but there are exciting things afoot over here, and not just like sewing projects, but big 2021 projects that I'm really excited about. And once there's more information to give, like I'll give more information, but yeah, like it's been very busy over here. I can say one thing is I'm actually getting ready to launch a podcast that has nothing to do with dress history. So Andrew, who is actually the moderator in this chat right now, he and I have been doing a podcast together. Like we have like 9 episodes in the can, and it is a total chaotic good podcast. Like it's pure chaos. But so if you like just weird conversations about everything from Outlander to Am I the Asshole in Reddit, like Andrew and I will have you guys covered on that one. So yeah, but there's other things coming too in 2021 that I'm really excited about. When it comes to sewing projects, I am still like stuck on my medieval kirtle. Like that thing is just taking forever and a day. And I don't know the last time I've actually spent time in my sewing room, like just being like, woo, I'm going to make something. Like, so I'm just slogging away at the kirtle, hoping for the best. But it's getting there. It's getting there. I've cut all the buttons out and I'm working on the binding on the hem right now. And then it's just the sleeves and the buttonholes and stuff. So that video hopefully will come out not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday. So closer to Thanksgiving-ish, if I can get it done. If not, then I have to kind of switch some stuff around. She also asks if my yard has been dog-proofed yet. I don't know if y'all know this, but Griffey, God bless that dum-dum. I love Griffey. Like he is my baby boy. Like he is my baby boy. He's special. He is, but he has a rock eating problem, and my entire backyard living in the desert is actually rocks, and he thinks they're all candy and snacks. And so I had to take him to the vet the other week, probably a month ago or so, and he had about like 13 rocks in his stomach. Luckily, he didn't need surgery. They just made him, like, he's been able to kind of get them all out. But unfortunately now, this boy has to go outside to do his business, and he has to wear a muzzle because he will still try to eat rocks, even with the muzzle on. So yeah, that's been fun. Never expected that to happen. So yeah, so that's the dog update. I'm also really surprised that they're not completely going crazy right now hearing me talk, because usually when they hear me talk, they get upset, but whatever. I'm enjoying the moment of quiet. Naomi asks, she says, would you love to know more about your collection of vintage clothing? How many pieces do I have? And which one's my favorite? I've lost count. It's been a very big buying season recently. I keep getting stuff in and I keep buying more. It's like almost on a weekly basis now, and I really need to stop. Like, it's getting bad. So I think currently my favorite, it's a tie either between the purple 1860s, because not only does she have her skirt, which could have very easily been turned into other things, she also has both bodices. She has both her evening bodice as well as her day bodice. So she is basically completely intact. She might have lost some trim like over time, but basically she is a complete set, which is incredible. And she's also out of watered silk, or what we call moire, and I've always loved watered silk, and so she's my favorite. If it's not her, then it's probably the 19 teens black vamp outfit with the stand-up collar, because that thing is just the coolest, and I love the 19 teens. Like, it's my favorite. But I kind of love all my babies in most ways, even like the really ugly ones. I'm like, oh, you're so ugly. Like, I love how I'm actually getting a really ugly one in this week, where it's just like Nicole and I were looking at it, and she was like, it's really ugly, and I'm like, I know, she's really ugly. So yeah. So there's that. Nancy asks, she says her dream as a teenager was to attend William & Mary and to apprentice at Williamsburg. And she wants to know what the experience was like living in 2 different times at once. You change your clothes a lot, because You get to a point where going to the grocery store when you work at Colonial Williamsburg is a total pain, and you don't want to like deal with it, because even though you would think people in Williamsburg would be used to Colonial Williamsburg employees, you still get people who stop you and talk to you. Like I had one guy come up to me randomly in Target once, and you know, I had my basket doing like, you know, your late 20s woman in Target thing. So I have way too much stuff in there of things I don't need. And he's like, "What are you?" I'm like, "I work at Colonial Williamsburg. Like, it's just there. Like, what?" So for privacy's sake and this weird feeling of when you're in costume and you work at Colonial Williamsburg, you kind of always feel like you're on. Like, you can't just be purely yourself, because people, if they know where you work, there's that kind of connotation where you're still representing the foundation when you're in costume, no matter what. So changing your clothes a lot was a big thing, just so that way you could have some privacy. But it's kind of weird to kind of play back and forth, because sometimes you do very 18th century type things when you're at work or like after work with people who work there, you know, whether it was eating food or the smells or things like that. Like Christmas was always a lot of fun at Colonial Williamsburg. I loved working Christmas because it really kind of felt like you could time travel sometimes at Christmas, because everyone's in this good mood and there's usually fires going and people have like cider and punch and everyone's feeling super festive, and it's just like woo, and it kind of felt like a real 18th century workday. And like Nicole and I, like, we used to work together a lot at Christmas time, and it was a lot of fun. So it's weird and it's cool. Like, I dig it. It's a good time. And yeah, I've heard Sophia Nygaard like talk about wanting to go to Colonial Williamsburg, and I would love to take her. I would also love to make a gown for her and like collab on that. So if you guys feel like helping her notice who I am, because she doesn't actually know who I am, I would actually appreciate that, because I think we could have a good time. So let me see. Thimbles, I said. So, just my 2 cents asks, they're interested in the practice of taking an older garment and upcycling it or modifying it to a current fashion. And I'm assuming this is within the realm of historical clothing. So taking like an 18th century garment and updating it to a 19th century garment. That's how I'm interpreting the question. And what would be the most challenging modifications? And I was thinking about that, and it's basically, it's a twofold question, but usually it's always the sleeves. Like, how do you set the sleeves? How are the sleeves set? Like, do you need to change the sleeves? What are the fashion of the sleeves? Because when you look at clothes, usually antique clothing, sleeves usually have a lot of piecing in them. And so there's not always a lot of fabric in them to begin with. And so if you need to try and update the sleeves, that could be difficult. You could take it out of the skirt. But again, that just kind of depends on the timeline. It's usually easier to take something that's super full and bring it in than it is to take something that's slimmer and smaller and then bring it out. So I think that's why when you look at, like, in the 1840s, there was a trend for 1740s fabric, and so it was really easy to take a 1740s gown and update it to an 1840s gown, because there was so much fabric there. Same reason why it's incredible that she survives in the condition that she is because there is a lot of fabric in that skirt, and that fabric could make one of those, but it didn't, which is incredible, and I'm very grateful for that. So, you know, it just sort of depends, but there's a bunch of different ways to do it. Also, she asks, she says that more videos with Cheney McKnight would be wonderful. And I agree. And hopefully we'll be able to do more of those in the future. Again, there's some stuff that's just kind of starting that Cheney and I are working together on, and we're hoping that it'll come to fruition. So fingers crossed. If not, we'll be doing hopefully stuff together and not just on Zoom and stuff. But yeah, Cheney and I want to do more content together because we love each other. What is my comfort food type of project? Like a good palate cleanser or something that I don't want to think about? Honestly, it's probably millinery or like accessory stuff where I can just cut out some white fabric and just hem it and just be like, I just want to sit on the couch all day, but I kind of want to keep my hands busy. So whether it's making like a ruffly apron, or in the case that the medieval project that I'm working on, it's like a wimple or, you know, kerchief or anything like that. So just kind of basic millinery projects like that are always really enjoyable. So yeah. And Celeste asks, would I be willing to do a video or a few on pattern drafting? And the answer to that is no, because I'm not an expert in that. I highly recommend that you bug Nicole for that one, because she is much better than me. So So Nicole Rudolph, yeah, go make pattern drafting videos. Not that you weren't already thinking about that. Most of my experience is in cutting to the body or draping, and so I myself am learning pattern drafting, and I'm enjoying that process. But I don't feel like I'm qualified to teach people how to do it. That I am very much still a student with that and enjoying that educational process. I like learning, so I would encourage, again, Nicole on that one. And Katrina says, I'm looking for early 20th century patterns and pattern styles because I think it would be flattering on my body. What are your best resources that I've come across for patterns and inspirations? Well, the short answer to that is you have I think actually Marika Enchanted Rose Costumes is working on a video about like pattern companies, and so that one should be pretty extensive. I think Costuming Drama Noelle has also done a video on that too. It's just some short answers are like, you have Truly Victorian, she has some stuff. Wearing History has some patterns. Black Snail Patterns has patterns. I think I'm missing one. I can't remember. But you know, there might be other pattern companies in the future who come out with patterns, especially a lot of Edwardian ones. Anyways, so what are my favorite movies from a costuming standpoint, historical and or costume design in general? I can't think of like costume design in general. Well, I love Jojo Rabbit, but that one is historical. Like the costume design in Jojo Rabbit I thought was incredible. The details and the textures and things like that. And, but my favorite actual costume, like historical costuming movie, I have 3. The first one is Little Women, just because, and the 94 version, no, not the 2019 Greta Gerwig, no. We don't talk about that one in our house. Like, I've never seen my mom get so upset about a movie. Just FYI, Susan is not a fan of Greta Gerwig at all. She didn't like Lady Bird either. But the 1994 one in a writer version is one of my favorites. And then it's Marie Antoinette with Kirsten Dunst. I love that movie. I love the costumes in that movie. I think it's so beautiful and they're so aesthetic and oh, they're just delicious. And then it's actually A Muppet's Christmas Carol. A Muppet's Christmas Carol is actually incredible when it comes to the costumes, and I am genuinely working on a video about it. It should come out like right after Thanksgiving. I'm planning for it to come out that week, where I'm gonna actually sit and go through the costumes of A Muppet's Christmas Carol and how accurate they actually are. So I hope you guys are ready for like my full nerdery to come out, because I love The Muppet's Christmas Carol. I have very strong feelings about the theatrical version versus the director's cut, because I do not appreciate the fact that they cut Belle's song out, but you know, I'm going to say that for the video. But yeah, Muppet's Christmas Carol is actually one of my favorites. What garment, oh, hold on. Rita asks, what is the coolest garment personalization I've seen in historical costuming and my historical clothing? I mean, they all have unique personalizations to them. I think that in and of itself is what's so fascinating, that every single garment that I own is different. Everything is unique. Everything has a very personal touch to it. I think the only thing that's pretty like predictable time and time again is that the sleeves are always sewn in by hand. Always. Like, they don't do those on a machine. But the amount of pockets that are in all of my skirts, like almost every skirt that I have has a pocket in it, especially in the bustle era, and they are all over the place, and they're super big and they're super deep and they're just really cool. So the amount of pockets that are in like 19th century skirts, I think is really awesome, especially since we had that horrible clickbait video, like article. It's like, women didn't have pockets. It's like, well, no, actually they did, and they were much bigger than the ones that we have in our pants today. So there's that. But so I love fighting hidden pockets. One of the pieces that you all haven't seen yet, and it might be a while before you see her just because of other stuff that's kind of like cooler, but she's coming, it's an 1890s outfit, and she has, and this ties into another question, and she's this beautiful like painted China weight silk, super duper lightweight, but the lining of her skirt, which is a free lining, so it's not connected, but it's there, was actually an 1880s bustle skirt, or it was a foundation skirt. Like we can't really tell like exactly what it is, but you can see the casing for the hoops for the bustle are still there, and they somehow managed to turn that into the lining of like this 1890s skirt. And it's super wild because it just kind of, your brain does that whole like math equation coming at you. You're just like, how did this work? It's bonkers, but it's really, really cool and it's beautiful. So that's kind of one of my favorite ones when it comes to the weird personalization. What garment was the hardest for me to make, and what am I the most proud of? I think it's the same one. It's actually my Camille Clifford dress. It was actually relatively easy to make, but what made it hard is my own mentality behind it, because up until that point, I felt very pigeonholed in 18th century. And I was going through this whole thing of, I've spent so much time studying the 18th century. I've spent so much time making 18th century clothes. Like, I am good at making 18th century clothes. I'm comfortable making 18th century clothes for women. But can I actually do anything else? Like, am I actually capable of doing anything else? Or am I basically a fraud? Like, I totally went through those periods of self-doubt and not knowing if I actually was good at this, and if I could even do this, or if I was just like a one-trick pony. And so when I made the Camille Clifford dress, it was a moment for me to prove to myself that I do actually kind of know what I'm doing, and that I'm not a one-trick pony, that I am capable of making a beautiful garment that fits my body, and that I can do this. And so when I wore that gown for the first time at Costume College in 2018, I believe, that was almost like a rebirth for me, that I felt beautiful in it, and I was super proud of it. And even if it is completely a mess on the inside, because it totally is, because sewing silk velvet's the worst. Like, oh my God, it's terrible. Just what it meant for me is really something that I'm super proud of as well. So it's that one. How do I care for, Shelby asks, how do I care for historic reproductions, not originals? You don't want to know. I'm not precious about the stuff I make, because especially my hands-sewn 18th century things, they're clothes to me. Like, I don't view them as precious works of art. I view them as clothes and just items that I wear. So I'm not super like attached to them. And I actually like patina on them. I like seeing them get dirty. I like seeing the wear points. I like seeing like how they survive my chaotic good energy, because I think that's in and of itself a fascinating thing to look at. I wish I still had the dress, but I had donated it to one of Cheney's programs for young women in New York who are doing like living history. But it was a white dress, it was a white gown, and I had had it for years. And I wore it a bunch, especially in the summer when I worked at Colonial Williamsburg. And even though I would wash it and clean it and take care of it, it still got these weird discolorations from just where I would rub it with my skin and my arms. And so these weird like brown patches and like how the seams came out in the sleeves and just stuff like that. Like, I like that. But no, I don't. I'm not really precious about my stuff, to be honest. It lives on the floor more often than everything's hung up now, thanks to my mom helping me. But yeah, no, stuff lives on the floor. I'm sorry. I take much better care of my historic stuff than I do my own things. Like, I don't care. And Shelby also asks like the best way to care for stuff. So here's the thing with that. If it is something that is not made out, so if it's silk or wool, if the garment is silk or wool, I do not wash it. I don't get it wet. I will air it out if I think it needs it. But honestly, my silk stuff, I don't wear that enough for it to really get icky. And then with my wool stuff, wool is naturally antimicrobial and antibacterial. So long as I don't get a stain on it, like, I'm good. It's fine. And that's what they did in the past too. Like, that's just normal ways to take care of your clothing. But if you're worried about something, like a theatrical trick is to take either like vodka or really high alcohol content, like grain alcohol, like Everclear, and you can spray it to help kill the bacteria. You can lay it out into the sun. You can air it out. I do also have something called an LG styler, which is like this cool magic closet for clothes that it can like gently shake my clothes on a hanger, and then it steams it and refreshes it. So if it needs it, that's what I do. If it's cotton or linen, if I want to, I will, but honestly, I don't. I wash my shifts or my chemises and my undergarments, but my outer clothing, I don't really ever take care. I don't ever wash those just because they were never really intended to be washed anyway. So that's just me. Vivian asks, if I could attend a totally immersive historical costume event weekend, which location, era, and persona would I choose? So the idea of doing a persona is kind of awkward for me, even though I was a theater kid and like really into acting. Growing up, I find like taking on a historic persona kind of weird for me, because if I was in the past as I am now, I would just be a variation of who I am, you know, given circumstances and things like that. So I have a really hard time with that kind of mental shift. So I'm not really comfortable with the idea of taking on a persona, but what I've wanted to do for a really, really long time is I want to do a Edwardian getaway weekend at the homestead in Virginia. It's in the mountains of Virginia, and it's where hot springs are, and like there's been a resort there since like the 18th century, and it's this big, beautiful like Edwardian like hotel like resort, and I just want to have like an Edwardian like getaway for the weekend where it's like lots of whites and like playing tennis and croquet and like having tea and stuff like that. Like that's actually what I would really like to do, and I've been desperately trying to like, get myself together to plan it, but then 2020 happened, so maybe one day we'll do it. So yeah, that's my plan. Sachi asks, do you or would you ever do any other kind of historical clothing making other than sewing, like knitting, knoll binding, tatting and such? And the answer is kind of, sort of, maybe, but no. I'm a terrible knitter and I don't have the patience to like try to get better. I'd rather just throw money at the problem. But I do like arts and craftsy type of stuff. So like finger braiding, tablet weaving, like I am interested in that kind of stuff, but I don't do it too much. I'm trying to learn some tablet weaving, but that's really it. But no, I don't knit and I don't crochet. You don't want me to. It doesn't go well. I've made a scarf once. And in that vein, Michaela asks if I quilt at all, and the answer to that one's also no. I made one quilt for my oldest friend when she was pregnant with her first child, and I hand quilted. I took fabric and I just actually hand quilted around a design of like cowboys, and I gave that to her, and it took me way too long, and I was like, well, she got that. That's great. Never again. Thank you very much. Denise asks, what are the names of college degrees that are specific to dress history? Which colleges offer this kind of degree? What textbooks do you recommend? And do you know anybody with a textbook to sell? She has a couple other questions in there, but I kind of want to focus on this one because I know I get this a lot from people, and I'm sure there are some of you in the chat group who I cannot grasp knitting. Same, Garrett, same. Who have probably a similar question for me. And this is kind of a weird, it's kind of a long-winded answer, but there are programs that do dress history. Most of them are master's degree or PhDs. To do an undergraduate degree in dress history, I don't actually think that's a thing. I don't think I've heard of anyone doing a dress history program as an undergraduate degree. Usually, if you're doing undergraduate work and you want to get into dress history from a more academic or curatorial perspective, you usually start with like a history or an art history degree. Potentially also doing costume design or fashion design. Usually costume design's better for this. And then kind of intermixing them together. So that way you have the academic historian background, but you also have like the creative costume background as well, like with design, because often with those design classes, you can get into some like history of costume classes too to help understand silhouettes, and then art history as well, which is what I did. So that was my BA from Indiana University was in art history, and then I had minors in history as well as theater. So kind of bringing those together. My master's degree is actually in decorative arts and design history. So while I did study clothes as a part of that, it was broader in the dec arts world. So I looked at a lot of furniture that I was like, oh, I can't remember furniture, like, boring. And also ceramics, which was also like, I don't really care. Can I look at clothes, please? I would love to look at some clothes, please. But now with the rise of like costume history and like dress history just as like a cool thing for people to study, and people are more interested in it and realizing that it is an option to study, we're seeing more and more programs. So University of Glasgow, which is where I got my master's degree, they actually got rid of my program and they brought in dress history. And no, I'm not salty about that at all. I'm super salty about it. But anyways, and there's other programs as well. But the problem with this is that, frankly, it's really preventative. It's not accessible. It's either expensive. So if you're going to like BARD or FIT, here in New York, those can be very expensive programs in addition to just living in New York City. Then if you look at Glasgow, while the tuition at Glasgow isn't necessarily that expensive compared to US tuition, you still have to move to a different country, which is a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. And luckily Glasgow, in the scheme of things, is not a very expensive city to live in, unlike New York. And then unfortunately we're dealing with programs like Nebraska, which is where Nicole got her master's degree. Like, they're trying to get rid of that program. So state schools in the United States programs, they're not getting funded in the way that they deserve, or it's super competitive. So you have Winterthur, which is kind of like the pinnacle of like deck arts and like dress historians, and pretty much every curator ever in costume and textiles went to Winterthur. But the problem with that is that it's super competitive. Like, it's a very small group of people and everyone wants to get into it because, one, it does open up a lot of doors, and two, you don't have to pay for your tuition. Like, your tuition's funded. So it's one of those things where, unfortunately, like, dress history as an academic field of study is very much, if you can get a degree in it, you're coming from a very big place of privilege. And so it's not fully accessible, which honestly is one of the reasons why I am so glad that you all enjoy my more dress history content, that I can sit and I can talk about stuff from like a more academic perspective and kind of break stuff down that way, because for me, it fills that need to want to make dress history more accessible, and there's so much to learn within dress history because, clothes have been forever. Like, humans have been dressing themselves for just millennia, and all over the world, and different ideas behind clothes and different concepts around clothing, different fashions. It's like, it's this untapped resource of knowledge. In addition, like, when you study dress history, you're not just studying like what do old clothes look like you're studying how did they wear them, who wore them, why did they wear them, why was this happening, what was going on in the world around us. When this fashion came in, like, how does this affect the economy? How does this affect our politics? How does this affect our worldview? Like, how does this affect you at home? Like, how do you function? And so when you study dress history, you can study so much about the world around you and the world that was here, that it makes it to me, it makes it much more accessible. So I love talking about dress history stuff because I love giving us a chance to look into the world around us and like, where do we come from, and I was talking to someone the other day, and I was talking about clothing, and ironically, when we go to like living history museums, like Colonial Williamsburg, for example, we all love watching like the blacksmith, right? Because it's like, ooh, fire. Our like Neanderthal cave brains like go like, ooh, fire, cool. But the thing is like, you and I, like, we're not blacksmiths. Like, we don't know how to do that. Like, but when you watch someone wear clothing or you watch someone cook, there's something very connected in that experience, because when you look at clothes, like the ones behind me, our brains can kind of start imagining what it's like to wear them. And, and unfortunately, sometimes that can get problematic because people go, oh my God, corsets, it's so uncomfortable. And we're like, no, guys, like, corsets are cool. Like, don't worry about it. They're actually amazing. But you can kind of look at it and you go, oh, she kind of looks like me. Oh, is this what I would wear? Oh, is this my clothing? So I would wear something like that. And then your brain can kind of start going into like, what is it like to move in this stuff? What is it like to walk around? Are you hot in that? Are you cold in that? How do you go to the bathroom in that? Can you breathe in that? The reason we ask those kinds of questions is that we as people, like, that's our curiosity coming out, and that's how we relate to these things. And so clothing makes history very relatable. And that's something that I adore about dress history, that I'm very passionate about dress history. And it's one of the reasons why I love sharing old clothes with you guys. And I really appreciate that you all have completely enabled this shopping habit of mine, because it makes it more tactile. It makes it closer, right? So that's something that I'm really passionate about. And honestly, that's something that I want to keep working towards in the future, like talking big plans here, because I honestly, guys, I had no idea that this was going to be a thing. Like, wow, 2020 has been crazy, right? But so when I start thinking about like my 5-year plan and stuff, I think what I really want to do is I want to make dress history more and more accessible to everyone. You know, I want to make it so people can study dress history more easily, and that it's not held back, and that, you know, you don't have to worry about college degrees. It's like, I want to make it more accessible for people. I want more information out there. I want to help fund that. I want to help push that forward. So like, if we're talking big 5-year plans, like I have some really big hopes and dreams and like goals and stuff. So yeah, there's that. That was a very long-winded thing. Moon Dragon asks, what's my favorite sewing project? It's the one I just finished. Catherine Brown asks, what's my favorite fashion decade? And that one's hard to answer. I can tell you the ones I don't like much more easily than the ones I do like, because I like most of them. I don't like 1840s, 1850s, and most of the 1860s. She is the exception to the rule. Because she's simple, she's not super fussy, and she is something that I feel very relatable to. Like, it's a very relatable outfit. Both of the pieces are super tailored and clean and crisp in their lines and their decoration. So I really dig it. But I just don't dig, especially the 1850s. I think it looks like a bad sofa. Like, 1750s is when men looked like sofas. 1850s are when women looked like sofas. And I'm just not a fan of it. Also, purely for vain reasons, I know it's not a good time period for me because I do not have the facial features that were like fashionable for that era. So, you know, I just kind of stick, 1830s, where it's like this little face works really well. And oh, that's it. Okay, so I've gone through all my Patreon questions, and now I'm going to see, because Andrew was supposed to send me questions. Oh, here we go. He's been texting them to me, so that way I don't have to like worry about not seeing them. So Home Phone, you asked, what's my favorite fabric to work with? It's either wool. Like, if I'm going with this like a fiber content, it's always going to be a wool product. I also love working with silk taffeta. So those. I cannot pronounce that. Synothos Soperary. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Asks, are you able to preview your plan for the upcoming year, quarter, month? So I basically have all my videos kind of planned out for the rest of the year, and a lot of them I'm leaning harder into the more academic, like talking head stuff, because that is what does really well on my channel. That's what you all really like. So I'm looking into videos about body hair removal in the 18th century, because I have a couple ads and I want to go more into it. I want to talk about 18th century weddings and what happens at an 18th century wedding, because they happened at Christmas time. And so I want to kind of use that as a way to kind of talk about how 18th century people celebrated Christmas. Obviously Muppets Christmas Carol and their costumes and how fantastic it is. I want to finish up my whole medieval ensemble project. It's going a lot slower than I had wanted to and anticipated, but I'm going to be working on that for the rest of the fall and winter. And that's kind of it. I'm not really I need to make a corset, because I don't have one anymore for like Victorian era, and I have like a lot of stuff that I want to do in the Victorian era, but I can't bring myself to sew it. Like, I have a pattern. I just don't have it in me. So there's that. And then the podcast, I saw someone ask like the name of it. Right now we're just, like I said, guys, it's Chaotic Good Podcast. Like, it has nothing to do with dress history, but Andrew and I called it You Suck at Marriage. Because of just like how this thing came about, but it is a Chaotic Good Podcast. I think Andrew and I were planning on releasing the episodes sometime early next year, and they'll be out. So we're just filling up our back catalog right now, and yeah, if you guys think, yeah, I embarrass myself a lot on that one. So there's that, but it's funny. I mean, I almost peed myself the other day when we were recording an episode, because I got going about Griff and his he toots a lot. Chayatsu Kimono. Also, that purple dress is the true Disney princess ball gown. Yes, yes, it is. Let's see here. Cat. Where do you even buy the Kinkame thread? I buy it from Britex Fabrics, and they're online. They're based in San Francisco, so that's where I buy it. You can also buy good Japanese thread, silk thread from Superior Threads, and Burnley and Trowbridge also has silk thread as well of different weights. But yeah, the stuff I really like, it's Britex. Pop the bubble chart leaks. Do you have any history bounding tips? History bounding tips. Well, Nicole actually did a really fantastic video with, hold on. This jacket, and she reproduced this jacket, which is it's fantastic, by the way. Like, this thing is incredible. And she actually styled it with modern clothes. So if you go and watch that video, at the end of the video, she has a whole thing where she's wearing it with different things like skinny jeans, wide-legged trousers, pleated skirts, everything that's super trendy. I think the thing with history bounding and with fashion in general and having your own voice when it comes to fashion is it's about expressing yourself and operating within your comfort zone and then pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. Like, what makes you feel good? You know, if you want to wear a walking skirt and long skirts and do your hair up and embrace like that kind of more like full time travel like aesthetic, like you can do that. But you can also just wear a Edwardian-ish shirt that you found at the Gap and wear that with modern trousers, and you can still history bound that way. Or it's how do you fix your hair, or, you know, little details like that to kind of just mix and match. And I think it's just about finding what makes you happy, finding what flatters your body, finding what brings you joy, and then just enjoying that part of fashion. Like, fashion is supposed to be expressive. Style is supposed to be expressive. So just express yourself. Have a good time with it. Like, it's just clothes. And honestly, in 2020, like, no one's going to see you anyway. So if you're worried about people looking at you funny, like, no one's going to see you anyways. Also, that only applies in like small places and like small communities, because when you go to New York, no one cares. Like, no one cares at all. So there's that. Let's see here. Chaser KT, where do you get your dress forms? So, I think this one that the bustle dress is in, I think she came from just like the shop company, dress form shop company, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then the one actually that the 1860s gown is in, this is hilarious. It's really, 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 really hard to find a mass-produced dress form that has anything smaller than a 24-inch waist. And the only thing I could find was a Dritz True to Me or whatever form. And this one's the petite. So she has like a 31-inch bust and a 22-inch waist. And she's the ones where you take the knobs and you crank them and she can expand and contract. That's literally the only thing I could find that had those really small measurements, because the mannequin I have that the green dress is on, she's actually like a 26.5-inch waist. Like, she's not even the smallest mannequin I could have bought from them, because she was supposed to just be for me and like a corseted me. But to be able to mount stuff like the purple dress or the couture dress, that Titanic era couture dress that is super awesome, I needed something smaller, and it took forever to find it, because I think with the pandemic, manufacturing of these dress forms just wasn't happening for a while. So literally that thing popped up on Amazon just a couple weeks ago. And so that's it. It's nothing exciting or special. As much as I would love to have nicer mannequins, literally Dritz is the only thing I can use right now that's actually small enough. The irony. Let's see. Ruth Deem, recommendations for best jobs, internships for getting into costuming, historic interpretation, and reenacting world. Honestly, it depends on what area you're interested in, because and it depends on where you live too. So if you're talking about the United States, Colonial Williamsburg being a massive employer, it is very, very easy to get a summer job there. And luckily, they are now basically completely switched over to paid internships. I don't think they're doing unpaid internships anymore, which is fantastic. The internships are going to be much more competitive, but to get a job as a summer employee at Colonial Williamsburg is actually, it's not that difficult. You do have to be willing to travel there and to live there. And honestly, the pay to cost of living in Williamsburg there's some issues there, but it's a college town as well. So you can like rent a room and sublet and stuff like that too. And I know there's other places like Plymouth Plantation. I don't know if they have a summer program or an internship volunteer program, but they're a fantastic living history museum, things like that. Just look around. Just kind of don't be afraid to reach out. Like, I was definitely that kid that I was just like, I'm going to go do this thing. And so I just decided one day that I was just going to intern at Colonial Williamsburg one summer. And I just made up my mind. And I was like, I'm doing this thing. And that's how, and I was able to make that happen. When you go to a museum or you see something, don't be afraid to talk to people. Don't be afraid to start up that conversation. If you're a young person and you want to get into the museum world, if you want to get into the theater world, if you want to get into any career path at all, that is traditional, if you will, it's genuinely knowing people. It's developing connections. It's that awful word that made me cringe so much, of networking. And so much of my career has been based off of collaborating with people, working with people I know, whether they're people I met when I was younger and it just so happens that our careers have kind of paralleled each other and we've been able to collaborate, or people have reached out to me or I've reached out to them. Maintaining those human connections, maintaining those relationships, that's where opportunity comes from. My entire career basically has been founded in my connections with people and being able to work with people and to be able to do those sorts of things. I just saw introvert problems, and it's hard. But the thing is depending on what you're doing, you might be around a lot of introverts. Like, the dress history world is full of introverts. Like, I am an ambivert. I fully admit that, but I also go into full introvert mode. Like, I'm not kidding, guys. Like, probably when we're done here, I'm going to be like face down on my couch, being like drool coming out of my mouth, being like, oh my gosh, I peopled, but with introverts, the thing about introvert, it's that small talk that's exhausting. So don't small talk, like talk. Like, really get to know people. And the thing is, you don't have to work it's not hard work. It's just, you have to be aware. You have to like, hey, how you doing? How's it going? Oh, are you working on that project? Help people out. Like, just not be afraid to go there and to put yourself out there. I mean, like Dandy Wellington, like, back when I worked for American Duchess and Dandy Wellington and we collaborated for the first time, like, we didn't know each other until we collaborated. And now I consider Dandy to be one of my dearest friends. Like, he and his partner, like, I adore them. Like, they are some of the most incredible people, incredible friends, but that was a business connection to start with. And so, don't be afraid to do it, because that's when really wonderful things happen, so that's a very long-winded answer to that question. Teresa asks, what is the difference between corsets women can buy today versus a Victorian corset? Most modern reproduction, like manufactured modern corsets, are not cut correctly at all. I can think of like two like corset companies off the top of my head that are good for this, where you can buy, I think, ready-made pieces. One of them is Red Threaded, because Red Threaded does historical corsetry. And then there's also Dark Garden. Dark Garden corsets. So they do really nice corsetry as well. But a lot of the stuff, especially like the fast fashion stuff, it's too tubular. And this is also something that a lot of us do wrong, and we didn't really understand about corset making until very, very recently, that a lot of people want to adjust the bust and hip on their corsets when they're adjusting patterns to like fit their bust and hip. And the reality is you need to focus on your waist. Like, if you have room in your hips, it's fine. Just pad it. It's all good. And also, having that spring allows you to lace and gives that illusion of that very curvy waist. So, but if you wanted to buy a ready-made like Victorian corset that was good, Red Threaded is the one that I recommend. I've worn Red Threaded corsets almost exclusively for a very long time, and I adore Cynthia's work. Like, Cynthia's incredible. She's so good, guys. She's so good. So yeah. And okay. So we're almost actually getting close to an hour, and I wanted to kind of show you guys a couple things, because I had promised that. I can't I might be able to roll these closer, but I can't move my laptop. But I wanted to kind of show you guys a couple things that I have. All right, I'm waiting to see when you guys see this now. Okay, we're still in corsets. There's a lag, so I don't know where we are. But so this is my most recent acquisition, and I just kind of wanted to show you guys her. I'm gonna do a video about her because she is actually the first piece, first bustle era garment that I have that actually has a separate overskirt. Because for my 1880s bustle skirts, all of them, the overskirt and the underskirt, they're all interconnected. There's no like separate overskirt that we have thought was really common. So she is actually 3 pieces. So she has her bodice, obviously, which I love. This is a super easy trim. It's just been pleated and then tacked on. And so she just laid it out over here. And then it goes down over the front here, and that's super easy trim application. She also has the biggest piping of all time in her shoulder sleeves, like it's super beefy. Let me see here. She was also really, really tall. Like her skirts, this thing, mannequin's as tall as me, and I'm 5'4.5", and her skirts are hitting the ground. But I don't know if you guys can see that okay enough. Let me just bring this down, sorry for any jerkiness. But I've had to pin it because she doesn't quite fit. But I loved, this is just a weird mess of stuff here. Like it's just chaos. But the way that they did this overskirt is that there's 3 ties that go over the bustle. And then this just basically would come, and there's no evidence of hooks. I think she literally just pinned everything in. And then this would just kind of pin over it in the place here. And then we can see some lovely ruching of the overskirt here, which is great. And she does have a little pocket on one side that's not fully functional, but it's super cute. And this is made out of a, this fabric is like amazingly disgusting. It is a super coarse wool, and it's super lightweight and very thin. So this is definitely a summer garment. Like everything is super, super lightweight, unlined, or if it is lined, it's lined out of a really lightweight cotton. And then it also has linen too. So like this green is linen. And then, well, she's pinned here because this tie doesn't really work. So undo her. Oh, okay. Well, you guys didn't see me do that. There we go. So there's no evidence of any hooks or eyes on this at all, and obviously buttons. And it's the same for the skirt underneath of it, that I'm pretty sure she just pinned everything. So what this means, guys, is that if you make an outfit and you haven't pinned, if you haven't done the buttonholes, you haven't done hooks and eyes, it's okay. You're not alone. It's cool. It's fine. And then you can kind of see, so this then just peels off the front. And you can see how discolored it is. So you can tell it was worn a whole bunch because the wool has gone completely yellow in the green section. The blue has faded out, but the blue in the wool here, it's still intact. It's still there. So you can see it was a much darker green, but the overskirt has definitely yellowed over time and bleached out. And there's a simple skirt underneath. The trim is really simple. I don't know if you guys can see that over here, but just pleated, stitched into place, nothing super exciting. Bustle skirts always have, I mean, every single one basically I've looked at that I own has a wool tape at the hem. And then the hem is faced with polished cotton, sometimes interlined with additional layers of fabric if needed. And this trim is actually really common to, like, just this pleated trim and how it's finished. But she's super coarse. She's so rough, but I love her. I think she's really pretty and she's very normal. Like what I like about her is that this is a very average outfit. So if you're going, oh, like what would a normal person would have worn in like the 1870s? This, she would have worn this and she'd been great. And she looked really good. And thankfully it's a check so we know what the grain lines are. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that because I've been really excited by her. Even though she's a disaster. And then I showed this to my Patreon the other day, but I've also acquired an 1850s bodice. So I know I said I hated the 1850s because I do, but I will say this 1850s bodice is actually nice. I think it's really pretty. I'm gonna put her on the mannequin. It does not fit. She needs to go on the really small one, but I don't want to just like hold her up because that's no fun for anyone. So she's not gonna fit with the bustle. But I want to show you guys kind of what she looks like. That's all we're going to get out of this one. Can you guys see her okay? So she's black silk taffeta with velvet ribbon, and the ribbon has just been appliqué to really help create that beautiful V shape. And then she has these horizontal stripes here as well. The ribbon goes around the edge of the bodice to the super full 1850 style sleeves. Very like 18th century in their styling, even though they're 1850s. So there's a lot of carryover techniques here that's really exciting. And like I said, she does not fit this one. She's super tiny. But the stripes carry over to the front and they match up perfectly. And she's beautiful. She's great. I love her so much. And just hooks and eyes down the front. Then also, just in case you all are curious, there's no, okay, the only bone is at the first dart at the front, towards the center front. Everything else is unboned. So I've noticed that too, until we get a bit later, there's not actually that much boning in these garments like you think there would be, especially in the 1870s. Like, I'm kind of surprised how little boning there actually is. I think someone's here. Hello? We made a noise. It's like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, guys. So, hello.
Hello. I'm making sure that this actually closes.
Just... Hi, you guys are in the shot. No one can see you over there.
I know, but we gotta take boots off.
Oh, that's true.
Snow all over your house. Yeah, your driveway is completely snowed in.
Oh yeah, it's because we're
Because we've come very
Look, it's here! Cinnamon rolls.
Cinnamon rolls.
And bagels.
And bagels.
You can put them on the counter.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You need to sit up for just a touch.
No, I'm looking at everyone's comments. So yeah, it's 11, and obviously Chrissy and Nicole have shown up. We're gonna have bagels for the rest of the afternoon, and probably put more clothes on mannequins.
Yes.
So, so yeah. Oh, everyone says hi. So, it's the daddy. They can hear you. So.
I know.
Okay.
Still. I don't want to sit on it.
Yes.
Oh. Ooh.
Yes. Oh, here we go. Everyone.
Sorry, we're distracted by the pretties.
Oh, it's okay.
I want to spend more time with this.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing research as to the date the other day.
Have you dated it?
Yes, I just don't remember. It's on my computer.
Okay.
1850 something.
Okay. Now it is a party.
1857.
Okay.
Like that. Yeah.
I hope they can hear you. All right, guys. Any one final questions before I leave? Yes, Bernadette, the coven has arrived. Oh, Melissa C says the matching sweater and your beret is such a look. Yes. Okay, anything else? Oh, Mom says hi and that she misses you guys.
We miss you, Susan.
And won't you be my bagel?
Yes.
Um,
But we have to bake them first.
JC says, can you make an Instagram post about wanting to make a dress, etc. for Sophia so we can all go tag her 60 million times? I mean, I can do another story again. I don't want to be like a super creeper. I'm kind of like, hey. I don't want to be like, oh my God, you know? So yeah, I mean, you guys can bugger. Go ahead. I don't care. All right, guys, this has been super fun. Oh, Kendall, sad I showed up late. Have a wonderful day, witches. We will have a good time. And I am so glad you guys joined me. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I will leave this up, so if you've come in late or you've missed it, like, don't worry. Like, it'll stay up at least for a little while. So that is my plan. And I hope that you all have a lovely rest of your day. Enjoy your Sunday. For those of you all in other time zones, happy almost Monday. I hope you guys have a good work week. I hope lockdown is going all right for everyone too who's back into lockdown. I'm sure the United States will be following very, very soon. So with that, I'll see you all here next week with a non-live stream video. And have a good one, guys, okay? Bye.
Oh, the entire 19th century. You don't get me.